Electricity converted from the sun can be created in very simplistic ways. There's a gentleman right now on social media who has this little gadget, and I saw him charging his phone with the heat being produced from asphalt, from a driveway. And with some water, the heat differential between the heat generated by the sun emitting from the asphalt and the water, he was able to charge his cell phone. And yeah, in the comments, people are laughing. They're like saying, how much energy are you going to emit? However, this allowed me to enlighten my point with some fun. So I had some change in my hand today and went outside to train my Gung Fu, my normal spot. I took my change out and put on my shirt, took off my shirt because I didn't want to soak up my shirt with sweat. Picked up my change and struggled a little bit putting the change in my pocket because the change was burning my hands. And I was like, man, this is hot. Funny thing is that this plus the video that I mentioned was aligning to what was in my mind to speak as I'm speaking now. See, we are electromagnetic beings. We are electromagnetic and chemical beings, by the way. The sun that charges our existence, especially our conscious field, our field of conscious here in this lower density matter, it's allowed to interplay with our somatic existence within this vessel as humans, because we also have water in our body, right? We are 70% water, as they say. 70% structured water. I believe it's H3O2 versus H2O, which means that the water is structured. It's not just the water that we drink that can be alchemically and chemically used and altered, not just in science, but with physical intention, because water holds memory in immeasurable amounts, to a similar fraction to that of a quartz crystal. The silicon dioxide of a quartz crystal is what allows us to even see a TV, and it's what actually allows us to even have computers and all of that stuff, because the chips are made of the silicon. But silicon by itself, water by itself, consciousness by itself without the physical body, well, they enact within their own conscious field, and we would have to be in that conscious field without the body to see how consciousness can exist without a physical body. But because we also have the physical body, here we have the multi-dynamic exchange between a physical vessel, a water body, an electric body, a magnetic body, and the necessary chemical exchange that's required along with our emotional state body to not just allow us to live in homeostasis, but to allow us the power and ability, if we're conscious, to augment and to manipulate our reality. Which brings me to my point, the change I'm still holding in my hand. As you can see, they are already working in Europe with digital currency. Again, we already know what currency means. Currency means the exchange of energy. To have digital currency means that there is still a state of currency exchange. However, the ability to manipulate this energy, they or those who create that template has full capacity and control over one's reality, especially when you either consciously or subconsciously sign up for such a program. And they have it manipulated in such a way, simply existing in Europe or the United States pretty soon. This is actually you saying, I sign up. When you observe and you see garbage being presented to you, and you're not just attempting to pick up the garbage to clean it, but you're also not participating in finding out the source of why we have garbage all over our face, so that the garbage could cease to exist because it's bothering us. So if we just sit there, that's signing off an agreement in the spiritual realm, at least in the lower density field. That becomes an initiation of the purchase of you being a participant simply by observing and them playing in your face like garbage. And it's not limited to digital currency. However, again, the money in my hands, my intent, the sun, right, is showing how we can amplify, expand, and change our experiences simply by when I picked up the money, because of the metals such as copper. And I know copper pennies are not just copper anymore, but yet still, and I know nickels are not just made of nickel anymore, even if it's cheap metals, even if it's metals that are not of value, it's of complete value when it's in complete physical form. Again, back to the original point that I made from the beginning of this video, asphalt for me has zero value for earth grounding, so I would never have my own driveway anymore with asphalt. However, It's a field of currency and energy exchange. Just because I choose not to, I still have a choice to choose to not work with asphalt. But when you're in digital currency, you don't have any choices because everything is now being repopulated in the digital world. So it has to start with certain things. First, loss of control as an example. And this is one way of seeing it. Loss of control of your air, your water supply, right? The food supply, making you feel that you can simply only participate in being powerless. So here we are now collectively signing an agreement that we have zero control, because how are we going to do this collectively? Because we can never seem to agree, to even agree to disagree, right? So this chaos is the manipulation that was created in the spiritual realm. As most people are becoming more conscious, people are still not yet able, capable, or maybe not willing for various of reasons, because this is one's individual experiences, so there's no judgment there. But enough of us are not yet seeing beyond the veil and holding that energetic space so that you can actually be present beyond the veil and still be present here in the spiritual body. Now that sounds crazy, and I know that sounds insane, but in the quantum field of mechanics and in a sacred way of seeing true physics, or sacred chemistry as an example, it's very provable. But I'm not here to prove things on a scientific basis. As I said in many videos, I'm here to speak on a spiritual ascension frame of work, because that is the agenda or the mission that I chose to incarnate here. I can easily see things in the form of neutrality, as it being neither good or bad, that money is now being digital, because the truth is in our future self. And when you're able to see, which I know that many of you can see, the future of this experience, it's going to be without money. It's going to be that the currencies are now evolved where there's not going to be any more sickness or homelessness. And the reason it's not happening now, it's not because we're not evolved in our biology and our physical body. It's because we're taught and indoctrinated to believe that we're not in control. And again, they're controlling and creating toxicity in our air supply, food supply, water supply. What happens next? Containers. Right? They're gonna manipulate and create warfares and all of these monopolizing strategies, such as a video game, and using this intelligence in the most simplistic way, where you only need eyes and ears and a nose and skin to experience it, like childlike. So they're taking our childlike experiences and using that natural innate power that I would use and I work with to alchemize and amplify and to digress my experiences. Enough of us have to be able to see that true wealth doesn't just come from money. Abundance comes from many, many sources. So money is one sigil, right? One sigil of understanding as how one can collect and work with the exchange of wealth. So it's still yet energy. So digital money would do the same. But what is the difference? Many of us are still not yet evolved enough to do what money does and is teaching us to do, is that what? Money is attracting. If I keep the money out in the sun, it's going to burn my hands. If I keep the money out in the cold winter, it's going to feel very cold. So the energy of the metal, yes, it's going to change the density of my experiences depending if it's copper or metal, silver or gold. However, the metals by nature attract, just like asphalt emits, at least using the example that I mentioned. So once you see pluses and minuses versus good and evil, at least as far as alchemy, then you can start to see that as you start to expand in consciousness and awareness. That means that you're expanding your pluses, but you're also expanding the minuses the same. Because in this playing field down here, it's checks and balances, it's pluses and minuses, it's construction and it's destruction or de-evolution. It is a process that intelligent beings, ancient intelligent beings, chose the negative faction side and the dark side to work in the same way that there are beings such as us that chooses the light, the sun, as in the Son of God or the source, for us to emit outside of us in the same way that we are remembering how to emit. That's time backwards, by the way, E-M-I-T, to emit within. That means the light within, en meaning within, enlighten, to lighten your grid work from within. And when you do that, and you see no longer a separation with the light outside of you, then time, such as emit, you're using time backwards, it ceases to exist, but then you reprogram time to bend around your truth and your reality in the moment, thus becoming a co-creator with source. Now that sounds blasphemous. Exactly. Here in the negative or the phantom attempt world, because we're seemingly matriculating into the phantom word, and I love to use matriculate. And that's another talk, but the phantom reality is an actual reality of factions that took this planet. There's an entire timeline called the phantom timeline that's coexisting, co-creating with this reality the same. However, they're looking to invest, that are in the phantom timeline, that are trapped, are looking to co-invest and use our energy, our enlightenment. As we were born enlightened, we were just taught and indoctrinated that we need to seek source outside of us and to plug into that source outside of us. Fill in the blanks with what I mean by source, or anything outside of us. And the game here is that you're giving your power that's eternal, your consciousness that's eternal, for whatever that means to you. And you're exchanging currency with that. So the game that you see outside of you is part of the exchange program. That perhaps you agreed to do it before you were born here, but the whole point was that you agreed so that you can come here to collapse the system as you became collapsed, or that perhaps that you've died many lifetimes feeling stuck, and perhaps you are graduating from the phantom world or reality and seeking to see that the light is not outside of you, that heaven is not outside of you, because to the phantom reality, the closest thing to heaven right now is Earth right here. Because right now Earth is pumping, breathing, and bleeding the same blood that we do. Our souls are magically intermingled with the soul of the Great Mother. And that's why I like to use matriculate, by the way, because it has like components of the Great Mother to matriculate. Matriculate. All right, so so they're using something that could be positive in a negative way, and to matriculate, to birth our essence, so that they can exchange within this exchange program. That while we're going digital, somewhere in between the loopholes of that transition or transitory factors between our reality and this phantom reality, that, by the way, I've been there. There were beings that, some Asian beings from the phantom world that were conscious just like me and you, that are trapped there in their attempts to collapse that reality. While they're in physical form there in the astral realm, they communicated with me. They communicated with me by showing me by how easy it is to get trapped, and they actually taught me. And I think that'll be for another talk, because that'll be lengthy. So know this, that if you do not want digital currency, it's not necessary to fight the fight. I'm not saying not to. It's to invest within yourself, is to change the programming first and foremost. And if you don't know how to do that, and you have the will to do that, and you're aligned to my words, reach out to me. I do take one-on-ones. As of right now, I do. There's coming a point where I'm going to work within the collective, and my time may be shortened with one-on-ones. And that is the truth. It was so back in the day when I had my acupuncture practice, and I would have said no to one-on-ones maybe 9.5 out of 10 times. And it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was just that I understand how my energy and my resources are, and I needed to choose to work in different timelines. But as we speak right now, I'm taking in one-on-ones. And lastly, know that the experiences of how I felt the heat exchange as my hands got burned with the money, almost like a hot iron. It was pretty hot. Again, is to understand my water body, and to understand how the transitioning of my experience of the heat with the money, that experience is to remind me and to remind you all the same, that this is the true wealth that they do not want you to know. That's how the monopoly game collapses. That's how digital currency ceases to exist in your reality. When enough of us do that, this is how we co-create with source consciousness this new world. Why do I keep saying co-create with source, and why do I And why did I say that that was blasphemous? Because think of it like this. To be a child no more is to stop asking for God outside of you, what you've been co-creating this entire time. Simply by raising your awareness with curiosity and becoming more conscious, first by dissolving what blasphemy really means, and to be curious enough and to trust yourself and your intelligence enough that you maybe for a minute to stop searching for books, social media, even listening to me. Fuck it, seriously. Is to listen, to pay attention, to rewire your nervous system in this life form. It's necessary for you to gain back, to pay attention. Remember to pay attention. You're paying attention, currency, towards your intuition. In means within. When you pay a university tuition, what does that mean? So you're paying tuition to yourself. You're paying yourself back in abundance. And the energy supply behind that starts to invert this inverted reality, to bring it back to a level of harmony and homeostasis that we haven't experienced in this incarnation at all. Because this inversion system and technology, again, it's about energy, the same energy that's going to create digital currency. And that's what we're collapsing. How do we collapse it? We no longer feed it. We change our currency. We change our system. And that ancient system cannot feed off of source consciousness to those who are awakened. We give away our source consciousness. We're saying, no, thank you. I'll be honest, possessions are actually cooler than this, because being possessed by a demon, at least you know what the hell is going on. This one keeps your ass in sleepy mode, dude. So that possession or the attempt to possess you, shake that motherfucker's hands. Say thank you. Now I see how energy works in that low field, but there are higher fields of more powerful entities that humans have made arrangements with, that can only work because humans have made arrangements with. And we're talking about shit, the ones that are supposed to protect us. So again, we do not repair the system. We must allow the system to collapse. You repair your somatic nervous system by allowing the systems to collapse and seeing how the trauma can no longer be held in your shoulders, in your back, in your head, in your feet, maybe in your hips, maybe in your eyeballs, maybe you have eyeball problems, you feel what I'm saying? And allow to see what memory you've been holding by bringing it upright into your conscious mind so that you can see it for what it is, so that it doesn't go back into hibernation or dormancy, so that you no longer invest in the traumas that are making these factions wealthy as fuck. The medical field, the scientific field, you name it. Stay wealthy. Love you.